Hello, everybody, and I am delighted as the Artistic Director of Chamber Music on Valentia to be able to present this conversation with Marcella O'Connor. For 2021, we have continued an initiative we started last year, which is the creation of a digital installation, as some of our activities are online again this year. And it's been a really creative and engaging way for artists based in Kerry to engage with themes around Valentia, around Kerry, topics that are relevant to us all. And we're delighted that Marcella O'Connor, who is based in Killorglin, responded to our call and was awarded the opportunity to create an installation for this year's festival. So I thought this would be a great opportunity for us to hear from Marcella before watching her specially created installation about her work, her influences, how she responded to the call, and also her experiences of working on the incredible Valentia Island. So Marcella, thank you for joining us. And it would be great, actually, considering this is a call for Kerry-based creators, about your connections with Kerry.
Oh, okay, thanks. It's great to be here. Yeah, so I guess I'm one of those people who John B. Keane would say I'm Kerry by choice, not by birth, you know. And I've basically lived here my entire adult life. Mostly I've been based in Killarney, but I have recently moved to Killorglin, and it's kind of a nice change of pace. It's quieter.
Quieter than Killarney.
Yeah.
Can I ask, is there a reason why you chose Killorglin? I mean, there are artistic scenes everywhere in Ireland, but is it more about pace of life, about surroundings, being a little bit less urban?
Yeah, it's just really nice to like actually live in a town, and I don't ever have to drive anywhere. I'd walk to the shop, or walk to the bank. It's like, it shouldn't be an old-fashioned way to live, to actually live in the town where you reside, but it is nice, very nice.
And have you found that has had any kind of an impact on the way that you work or your space for working?
Well, 100%, because I moved here during lockdown. So I've suddenly had, earlier this year, a lot of time on my hands and only 5 kilometers. So it was kind of a challenge. I decided to just keep going out with my camera and finding new things within the 5 kilometers to film. So because of that, I've just been pushing my camera and my gear to its limits, basically, and doing new things with it that might not have occurred to me otherwise.
Wow. I think most people looking back on the last 18 months, certainly, and also moving forwards, that question of being pushed to your extremes, are also setting new parameters for yourself because other ones have been enforced on you in a sense, and using that creatively to stay inspired and find new ways of doing things. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your work, actually, and the sort of media that you work in or have worked in? What do you like working with the most?
Yeah, mainly I work in documentary, and it's a form that appeals to me because you're given reality as your subject matter, but you have to find creative ways to approach it and then convey it. There is no script, but you have to find the story within events that are happening.
Wow. And because I do not make films. So in terms of media, like, is film something that you have always, well, I might even be using an incorrect term or sort of a very general term, but is camera something that has always engaged you, or is it something that you fell into?
No, I kind of came to camera later. I was actually at UCC doing a PhD and teaching literature. And then I came across a story about the woman who negotiated Nigerian independence. And I became really obsessed with this story because there is no documentary about this woman. She wouldn't be very well known outside of Africa. So I started doing a broadcast production course with the idea that I would go ahead and make this documentary. So I've actually been working on it for years with support from Screen Ireland, and the story is kind of still unfolding, but that's how I kind of came to film. Maybe not the most conventional way.
And that sounds as though also the inspiration is story, and that's a story around a person, an individual, but also obviously historical, social, huge questions around that as well to be explored. So how did that transfer, those kinds of reactions to themes or absorption of themes? How did that transfer to your response to this call? Because it was very specifically, well, it was intended to be broad, but it was given the title Land, Sea and Sky, particular to Valentia. So was there anything about that that sparked your imagination immediately, or did it take a little bit of time to come to terms with what you were actually going to be able to do or want to do?
Well, when I saw the call, I saw it as an opportunity to do something different, because normally I'd be filming interviews with people. That would be the first step, and it's all about getting the facts down, and that's where the story comes from. So for this, it was like there's no journalistic angle involved. It's like a purely artistic response. So that to me was just like very freeing, and I was able to just like let my imagination go a little bit wild. And it's very lucky that this project was set in Kerry, because one thing we are blessed with in Kerry is amazing landscapes and unpredictable weather. And you combine the two, and there's that element of, there's a thrill of not knowing what you're going to get when you set off every morning. So yeah, it was a different experience, and it was good. It just pushed me to do things that I had thought about doing, but never would have had the opportunity to do before.
Fantastic. And I'm just curious, did you look at the three elements as being very separate, or did you see them as coming together, or something that you needed to apportion a third of your ultimate installation film to?
No, I actually decided fairly early that all three things go together. If you're on an island, you kind of live, they have a thing called island time. And it's not just in Ireland, it's also in the Caribbean. People who live on islands just have a different experience of time to the rest of us. Like, if you go to work in a city, the weather might be a secondary thought. Whereas if you're on an island like Valentia and you're looking off into the Atlantic, you see the weather coming, It's definitely a more immediate reality in your life. So I thought about, the sky element as being very much about what kind of weather you're getting. And, if you live on an island as well, you're probably not going to be in a rush anywhere, because you have to plan how you're going to get to the mainland or whatever. So I think people who live on islands, and even if you go to visit an island, your experience of the flow of time changes subtly.
And I understand that you visited Valentia a number of times, and we have chatted briefly about this, that the timing this year of the actual creation of the film material that you've used coincided with some rather spectacular weather. So the sort of the microclimate that you might have expected was not on your sort of average scale. Did that present challenges to you, as in, had you had this sort of idea roughly of what it might be like, and then suddenly things changed, but you learned new things or saw new things?
Yeah, no, that was definitely a challenge, because one of the things that you can always depend on in Ireland is that you'll get some time-lapse weather. If you're taking time lapses, you need the clouds to be moving, you need the light to be changing. So 360 days of the year, Ireland is the best place ever to shoot time lapses. And then I arrived in Valentia during a heat wave, and there was just haze. So a lot of shots, I didn't get the kind of dramatic detail. It just looked like I was filming in Jamaica. So I had to find new things to film. Like maybe, I went out at dusk for some of the shots and just got the light changing and the nice colors of the sunset, which I kind of hadn't expecting to do. And then I used a lot of ND filters, which are like sunglasses for your camera, to try to get more detail in the clouds that were there. So it took a lot more time to film time lapses than it would normally take, because I had to just be patient and wait for things to move. And then I was out there and just baking in the sun and getting a bit of heat stroke. So there's a place on Valencia that sells ice cream. They make their own ice cream. So I was like, that was my favorite place when I was working during the heat wave.
Can you tell us how long a time lapse like shot actually would take? I mean, how long would you spend on that?
Maybe about a half an hour.
Yeah.
Usually, because basically, well, the particular camera that I'm working with, you can get maybe 40 minutes max out of the batteries, and then you change the batteries. So when I was doing these particular time lapses, my goal was to take several different versions of the same framing. So I'd frame up, I would take a shot at a normal frame rate, then I would do a time lapse, and then I would take more of the same framing again at a normal frame rate, and then I would combine all those in post into one final image.
Wow. And just before we finish up and people actually get to see your wonderful installation, which again, we're delighted to have for the festival and for the island, and as part of the legacy of the festival as well, to be creating this new work. Was there anything that you learned about Valentia or experienced on this island that maybe you weren't expecting or hadn't had the opportunity before to encounter?
Yeah, there were a lot of things. And I've been to Valentia before, but every time I go to Valentia, I find something new. So this is the first time that I've actually been to Valentia where it's been hot enough to see people swimming. And so I was very surprised when I arrived on the pier, and it just looked like something out of the Mediterranean. There were just people everywhere in kayaks and kids swimming. So that was really interesting to witness. And then I had also not been to Braehead before. And I think at this trip, or these trips, I think that I was really struck by just how many like World Heritage sites are packed onto one small island. It's really unique. And I know Kerry has plenty of architectural stuff too. Kerry is unique in that way. But Valentia is just kind of like extra special in that.
Yeah, it has a concentration of lots of things. And this is a slightly off-piste question, but I know we have titled it Land, Sea and Sky. I was wondering if you were titling it yourself, if there was anything else that came to you that you would add to this, or if it was, something, if it was a piece of work which didn't have this, not the remit, but the actual title attached to it, if there was anything else that you were thinking you would like to add into the title or would have called it yourself.
Well, at one point I had been trying to think of the title, and I had thought of maybe calling it Mouth of the Sound, just because I was looking at the origin of the name Valentia and different interpretations from the Irish, and I just thought Mouth of the Sound was so cool because, it could be geographical, it's a sound, a body of water, but it just sounds like it's like a symbolic as well, But then in the end, I decided to go with the original title because it just does what it says on the tin.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Marcella, for taking the time to talk to us. And this has been incredibly informative as well for those of us who are going to be able to enjoy your installation. So thank you.
Thank you.